Carl Jung, along with Sigmund Freud and Alfred Adler, is regarded as one of the three founders of the field of psychoanalysis. This discipline consists of psychological theories and therapeutic methods designed to uncover and release suppressed emotions and past experiences. In simple terms, it aims to bring the unconscious mind into conscious awareness. Jung was born in Switzerland in 1875 and passed away in 1961. Throughout his life, he left a significant legacy across several areas of study, including psychiatry, anthropology, archaeology, literature, philosophy, psychology, and religious studies. For a considerable period in his career, Jung worked closely with Freud, who served as his mentor. However, over time their perspectives began to differ, and Jung eventually separated from him. This break was deeply difficult for Jung, but it also led him to establish his own psychological approach known as analytical psychology, which developed as a broader and independent system distinct from traditional psychoanalysis. While classical psychoanalysis tends to emphasize the patient's past, especially early childhood experiences that shape personality, analytical psychology focuses more on the present moment. It also explores mythology, folklore, and cultural traditions to better understand the nature of human consciousness. One of the central concepts introduced by Jung within analytical psychology is the process of individuation. This idea describes the journey of discovering one's true self, a process that Jung believed was fundamental to psychological development. Individuation is considered a crucial stage in human psychological development. Although he never created a fully structured philosophical system, he is still widely recognized as a thoughtful and influential philosopher. Over time, his intellectual tradition became known as Jungian philosophy. Jungian philosophy. The ideas within Jungian philosophy can be applied to many subjects across the humanities and the social sciences. A significant portion of Jung's work was actually published after his death, and even today there are still some writings and articles he authored that remain unpublished. Among his most influential books are Psychology of the Unconscious, Man and His Symbols, The Archetypes and the Collective Unconscious, Modern Man in Search of a Soul, The Psychology of the Transference, Memories, Dreams, Reflections, and the Relations Between the Ego and the Unconscious. Beyond being a remarkable writer and dedicated researcher, Jung was also an artist, a skilled craftsman, and even involved himself in building projects. His overall contribution to psychology and the study of human nature is immense. There is a vast amount we can learn from his ideas and writings. That is why, in this video, we present 9 important lessons drawn from the philosophy of Carl Jung. 9 life lessons. 1. Look inside yourself first. Who looks outside dreams, who looks inside awakens. Who looks outside dreams, who looks inside awakens. While Sigmund Freud tended to approach psychology from a strongly empirical and scientific perspective, Carl Jung was often viewed by many as somewhat mystical. This perception came from his deep interest in philosophy and spiritual themes, even though he consistently preferred to identify himself primarily as a scientist. Through his work with both himself and his patients, Jung came to realize that life does not serve only a material purpose. In his view, it also carries an important spiritual dimension. When people direct their attention inward rather than focusing only on the outside world, they begin to awaken. By doing so, they can discover a deeper sense of meaning in their lives, reconnect with their personal story, and better understand their own belief systems. However, many of us spend too much time worrying about what is happening around us in society and about how others judge or perceive us. In other words, we often become overly focused on what Jung described as the persona, the social mask or false identity we present to the outside world. To truly understand who we are, we must turn our attention inward. By exploring our inner world, we gain a clear understanding of our identity, our personal myth, and the belief structures that shape our thinking. This process also helps us recognize the person we want to become, giving our lives direction and a stronger sense of purpose. If we never take the time to look deeply within our own hearts, life may begin to feel like a dream, but not our own dream. Instead, it becomes someone else's, where we simply follow the expectations of others, whether they are family members, friends, or colleagues at work. In that situation, we simply do what everyone else is doing. Looking inward, therefore, becomes a process of self-discovery and personal exploration. It forms the essential foundation for developing our authentic self. Ludesity process of self-exploration ofoutrself. To truly look within ourselves, we need to spend more time alone, reflecting, meditating, and carefully examining our desires and dreams. It can be helpful to write them down along with our abilities, skills, and natural talents, and then determine what path in life makes the most sense based on the desires we hold and the resources we possess. By practicing this regularly, we can gradually discover the inner compass that helps guide our decisions and direction throughout life. 2. Integrate your contraries. According to Carl Jung, wholeness is not achieved by cutting off a portion of one's being, but by integration of the contraries. Jung is widely known for introducing the psychological ideas of the anima and animus. In his theory, these represent the contrasexual elements of the human psyche. Jung suggested that within every woman there exists an inner masculine psychological aspect, known as the animus, and within every man there exists an inner feminine psychological element, known as the anima. Although modern perspectives on gender have evolved significantly since Jung first developed these ideas, the broader concept of psychological duality still provides a useful framework for understanding the complexity of the human mind and achieving a more balanced psyche. One important result of this internal division between our outward gender identity and the unconscious contrasexual component, whether anima or animus, is that many individuals tend to ignore or suppress the unconscious side. When this hidden aspect is continually repressed, it can eventually return in ways that negatively affect our behavior, emotions, or psychological well-being. To avoid inner conflict, accept your hidden self. To prevent inner tension, it is essential not only to recognize the hidden parts of our psyche, but also to accept them. When the conscious and unconscious sides are in balance, our attitudes and interactions with the opposite sex generally improve. One practical approach is to observe our own behavior in daily interactions, take notes, and analyze the progress we make on this journey. For example, a woman seeking to integrate her animus should focus on her goals and pursue them decisively while still embracing her femininity. A man working to integrate his anima should learn to trust his emotional side more, express himself openly, and engage gently with others without compromising his masculinity. Through this process, our relationships and interactions with the opposite sex become more authentic and harmonious. Progress can be tracked in various ways, such as keeping a daily journal noting the decisions we make, how we interact with others, and the ways we assert our voices. Balancing our conscious identity with our hidden side, our anima or animus, is a key step toward achieving wholeness and healthier relationships. 3. Analyze your dreams. Jung once said, "The dream shows the inner truth and reality of the patient as it really is, not as I can conjecture it to be, and not as he would like it to be, but as it is." At first, many dreams may seem confusing or even impossible to interpret. However, when examined carefully, they can reveal the most hidden and significant aspects of our psyche, offering valuable insight into our inner world. Understanding your dreams. To truly understand dreams and explore the complex network of our subconscious, we first need to overcome a certain level of resistance. Once we succeed in this, we are often surprised at how even a seemingly trivial dream can reveal significant and profound issues within our psyche. Dreams communicate through images, expressing instincts, the most fundamental aspects of human nature. In this way, dreams act as sparks from the unconscious, revealing the inner reality of a person. They disclose hidden truths, which is why they hold great value in psychotherapy. However, dream analysis is not limited to a clinical setting. Anyone can study their own dreams. The first step in analyzing your dreams is to write them down immediately upon waking. Keep a notebook and pen by your bedside so recording your dream can be the first thing you do in the morning. Later, when you have some quiet time, revisit your notes. Identify key words or images from the dream and explore their connections to your daily life. For example, perhaps that cup of tea in your dream represents a gift or memory from a friend. By making these associations, you can uncover insights into your inner world and better understand the messages your subconscious is sending. Interpreting dreams and facing reality. If you notice a recurring symbol or image in your dream, it might indicate unfinished business with someone or something in your life. After identifying key elements, start writing your interpretation by connecting the dots. For instance, imagine you dream about going to the kitchen to find a cup of tea, but a sudden loud noise outside your house startles you, making you want to run back to the bedroom. One possible interpretation of this dream could be that you need to confront a fear or hesitation in order to reconnect with that friend. Dreams can be much more intricate than this example. The more keywords and symbols you identify in a dream, the more associations you can create, leading to a deeper and more detailed interpretation. 4. Learn to face reality. As Carl Jung said, "What you resist persists." Jung emphasized that the more we resist something in life, the stronger its presence becomes. Avoiding fears or difficult situations often leads life to place us directly in situations where we must confront them. In psychological terms, resistance only magnifies problems, whereas acknowledging and facing reality is the first step toward growth and resolution. Facing life's challenges for happiness and mental health. Happiness, well-being, and psychological health are closely connected to how we handle the negative aspects of life, not how we avoid them. Whenever we deny our problems, confront them aggressively, or remain trapped in feelings of hurt, anxiety, sorrow, or anger, we are resisting the core issues. The more we fixate on negativity or depression, the harder it becomes to resolve the problem. To maintain psychological health, we must work through our feelings rather than suppress them. Common forms of resistance include denying reality, minimizing the problem, blaming others, or attempting to change other people. Often, we cling to unresolved emotions instead of analyzing and understanding them. The first step in solving any problem is acceptance. By letting go of the struggle and acknowledging reality as it is, we create the foundation for effective action. For example, imagine struggling at work while your relationship with your boss deteriorates, all while still needing to pay your mortgage. Fear of losing your job, your home, or even your family may lead you to minimize the problem or hide the truth from your spouse. At work, instead of addressing the issues directly, you might avoid conversations with your boss or even avoid being in shared spaces like the break room. In such situations, accepting reality and confronting the challenges directly is essential to resolving problems and achieving balance in life. Facing problems directly and understanding superstitions. The longer you avoid having that important conversation or hide the reality of a problem from your spouse, the more the situation worsens and the outcome becomes increasingly negative. 5. Be aware of superstitions. Jung teaches us primitive superstition lies just below the surface of even the most tough-minded individuals. No matter how rational or sharp we consider ourselves, we are still influenced by mythology, mainstream religion, and cultural superstitions. Interestingly, Jung noted that those who believe they are immune to these influences are often the most likely to succumb to them. Recognizing our own vulnerability to these unseen influences is therefore essential. One of Jung's central ideas is the concept of the collective unconscious, which refers to a level of consciousness shared among all humans. This collective layer contains archetypes, myths, and symbols that influence our thoughts, behaviors, and cultural understanding, often without our awareness. Jung on the collective unconscious and superstitions. Jung believed that fundamental aspects of life, such as sexuality, are connected to primordial images stored in the collective unconscious. These ancient images have accumulated over thousands of years and continue to influence our daily thoughts, behaviors, and emotions. The core challenges we face today are not entirely new. They have been experienced countless times by our ancestors, and their traces remain embedded in our collective unconscious. Superstitions, Jung suggested, were early attempts by humans to cope with these recurring challenges. Rather than ignoring or dismissing these primitive beliefs, it is healthier to acknowledge them and find ways to integrate them into modern culture, even if they appear trivial or outdated. A crucial step in avoiding the influence of primitive superstitions is to stop assuming we are immune to them. Many seemingly irrational fears or phobias, like fear of the dark, loud noises, bridges, or blood, can trace their origins to the collective unconscious. Recognizing this connection allows us to confront and understand these fears rather than being unconsciously controlled by them. Understanding fears and superstitions. Even in places like Great Britain, where snakes are rare, many children still display an irrational fear of snakes. Humans have historically feared these creatures, appearing even in the biblical story of Adam and Eve, and numerous superstitions have grown around them. Scientists suggest that this fear may have an evolutionary basis, giving an advantage to those who avoided potentially dangerous animals like snakes. Rather than ignoring such fears and entering risky situations without caution, it is wiser to listen to your instincts. Avoid dangerous areas or take proper precautions to stay safe. Integrating these ancient superstitions thoughtfully into our lives can be beneficial, as long as it does not compromise rational decision-making or safety. Integrating superstitions wisely and thinking before judging. Integrating superstitions into our lives can sometimes be useful, as long as it does not compromise our reasoning or judgment. For example, even if there are no snakes where you live, it still makes sense to wear shoes for safety. 6. Think, do not judge. As Carl Jung said, thinking is difficult. That's why most people judge. Jung explained that when we judge others, it often reveals more about the person doing the judging than the one being judged. This is because judgment is frequently a form of projection. What irritates or disturbs us in others often reflects unresolved issues within ourselves. By observing others and noticing what triggers our reactions, we can gain insight into our own personality and address personal challenges. Moreover, choosing to think before passing judgment is an act of empathy and moral responsibility. It encourages us to understand others and respond thoughtfully rather than criticizing impulsively. The balance between sincerity and judgment. As the old saying goes, don't judge someone until you've walked a mile in their shoes. There is a delicate line between being sincere and being judgmental. Speaking too honestly without filtering your thoughts can lead to hasty judgments, often unfair, because you may not know all the details of someone's life or circumstances. Take your time to think things through. Analyze a situation from different perspectives and consider other people's experiences before evaluating their actions. For example, imagine you have an assistant at work whose performance has recently become noticeably sloppy. Instead of reacting immediately and criticizing them harshly, take a step back. Have a short conversation, ask what has changed or happened recently, and explore ways to solve the problem together. This approach encourages understanding rather than creating conflict. The power of conversation and avoiding excessive pride. A simple conversation can save both professional and personal relationships. Taking the time to communicate openly often prevents misunderstandings and strengthens connections. 7. Avoid excessive pride. Jung observed, "Through pride we are ever deceiving ourselves. But deep down, a small voice within the conscience tells us something is out of tune." Often, we fear looking inward and hesitate to face the effort required for personal growth. When this fear finds justification in social settings, at work or among friends, it can lead us to adopt protective behaviors. One common form of self-protection is pride. Jung considered pride a type of self-deception that blocks us from living authentically. In many cases, what appears as pride is actually a sign of weakness rather than strength, preventing us from confronting our true selves and growing emotionally. Pride can be a sign of weakness. Showing pride is often a sign of weakness rather than strength. Excessive pride is frequently linked to neurosis. Neurotic individuals tend to avoid activities, people, or situations that might challenge their ego or hurt their pride. Sometimes, they even shy away from career paths or personal goals because of this fear. Often, this avoidance happens automatically without their conscious awareness. For example, many of us enjoy drawing or painting, yet we hesitate to buy the necessary materials. Why? Because we fear discovering that our skills are not as advanced as we hoped. Instead of facing the challenge and risk of failure, we avoid the activity altogether to protect our pride. We may convince ourselves that we don't have time to pursue painting, when in reality, it is the fear of starting at a beginner level and the work required to improve that holds us back. This avoidance, rooted in pride, stops us from growing and reaching our potential. Pride often masks weakness. Excessive pride is frequently linked to neurosis, and it can subtly shape our behaviors and choices. Neurotic individuals often avoid certain activities, people, or even career paths that might challenge their ego or threaten their pride. This avoidance usually happens automatically, without conscious awareness. For example, many of us enjoy drawing or painting, yet we hesitate to buy the necessary materials. Why? Because we fear discovering that our skills are not yet, and may never be, as good as we hope. We avoid the activity not because of lack of interest, but because we want to protect our pride. Instead of starting at the beginner level and putting in the work to improve, we convince ourselves that we don't have time to paint. This way, we shield our ego from the discomfort of being inexperienced and the effort required to become skilled. How pride blocks growth and the value of aging. Another example is staying stuck in a job out of fear of starting the job search. We may worry about failing or discovering that we are not yet qualified for our dream role, requiring new skills first. Excessive pride prevents growth in any area of life. True development requires humility, the courage to face the reality that we are not as capable as we imagine, and a commitment to actively improving ourselves. 8. Be eager to grow older. Jung wrote, "Life really does begin at 40. Up until then you are just doing research. Aging brings wisdom and perspective. Embracing the process of growing older allows us to focus on meaningful growth rather than clinging to illusions of early achievement or perfection." Carl Jung's early life and path to independence. Carl Jung lived a long and accomplished life, enjoying a stable family, strong financial security, a successful career and international recognition. Early in his career, he was an apprentice of Sigmund Freud. However, around the age of 37, Jung broke away to pursue his own vision, founding the field of analytical psychology. This separation was marked by the publication of his work, Psychology of the Unconscious. After parting ways with Freud, Jung ventured into uncharted territory. Most of his friends distanced themselves, leaving only 2 colleagues by his side. Around the same time, he left his medical position at Bergelaslei and ended his relationship with his famous mistress, who had also been his research assistant. These years were filled with personal and professional turmoil, lasting until he reached 40. After that, Jung emerged as an independent thinker, confidently following his own path and establishing his own school of psychology, finding your path and telling your story. Just as Jung found his way at 40, each of us has the potential to do the same. Before 40, we often follow paths set by others, learning from mentors and experts while hesitating to explore our own directions. Around 40, we begin to realize how short life is and the importance of finding our own voice, regardless of the challenges or risks. By this age, we have typically lived about half of our lives, yet countless possibilities remain. We are more comfortable in our own skin, confident in our abilities, experienced professionally, less concerned with others' opinions, and braver when it comes to making significant life changes. Therefore, until 40, we should focus on learning from others, exploring different fields, and discovering what truly resonates with us. Once we reach 40, we should embrace independence, establish our own voice, and live by our own principles. 9. Tell your story. In his final quote for this video, Jung said, "The reason for evil in the world is that people are not able to tell their stories. Sharing our experiences is not just personal, it is a way to understand ourselves and contribute meaningfully to the world." The power of telling your story. As a psychotherapist, Jung recognized the importance of allowing patients to share their own stories. During a confession or therapy session, a process called transference occurs, where subconscious elements like hidden desires or emotions surface into conscious awareness. Jung referred to the long-term integration of these aspects as individuation. Individuation doesn't have to happen only in a therapeutic setting. A simple way to practice it is by writing your story. All you need is a pen, paper, some quiet time, and focus. Alternatively, you could share your story with a close friend or even record yourself speaking if that feels more comfortable. The act of expressing your experiences helps you understand yourself better and move toward personal growth. Writing your story and shaping your mythology. When writing your story, don't focus only on what happened to you physically, include your dreams, thoughts, and mental experiences as well. We are shaped not just by events, but by how we interpret them, along with our dreams and visions for the future. Writing helps you create your own personal mythology, giving structure to your inner world. By shaping this mythology, we move toward wholeness, bringing latent potential into conscious awareness. Only then can we live with true self-awareness and intentionality. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to explore our full Philosophies for Life playlist, and for more insights on achieving success and happiness through ancient philosophical wisdom, don't forget to subscribe.